Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Tyler, and today I am bringing you guys finally what if Daniel joined Cobra Kai. Now obviously he did join it in Karate Kid 3, no smartass, I don't mean it in that way, I mean it what if he actually joined it instead of Miyagi-Do. So in Karate Kid 1 he will be joining Cobra Kai. Now with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, if you want more Cobra Kai what ifs, be sure to suggest me them down in the comment section below, along with liking the video if you do enjoy, and consider subscribing. That way, you are supporting me, and if you hit the bell icon, you will be notified and updated when I upload. So yeah, do that. No, I'm just kidding. You don't have to, but with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just gonna shut up and let's just get into the video. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Alright, so in this scenario, we are going to have to make Daniel never meet with Miyagi, and him showing determination against Johnny and his crew, even though he's getting bodied. He's still trying his best to hold his own, he's hanging in there. This leads into, instead of Miyagi, but rather Kreese this time around, just beating up his students, but he holds back and makes them run away after he realizes that these are his kids. Kreese questions if Daniel is okay, to which Daniel would then nod yes. At that point, we would have Kreese seeing potential within Daniel based on what he saw. Even though it was a 3v1, Daniel still faced them off, and he has no experience with martial arts whatsoever. Daniel would then question how he knows them and how is he aware of them having martial arts, and Kreese would say how those are his students and he was just walking around and he found them just jumping someone who has no experience. So Kreese would then apologize for their behavior, and Daniel would then accept it, saying how it's fine, and he would explain to Kreese him and Johnny have been kind of going at it since he actually arrived here. Daniel thought he could try and settle the score tonight, but he just kind of lost and got jumped. Kreese would then say how Daniel should try and come to their dojo, although he does have some enemies there. Kreese can personally train Daniel and take him under his wing. That way he can learn to fight and stand up for himself. The reason why I think Kreese here would take this approach is because he would see a little bit of himself within Daniel. We have young Kreese kind of being similar to Daniel in this situation, where Daniel is trying his best to keep up in this fight, just like how young Kreese was when it was a 2v1, which is what we saw in season 3, and so I think Kreese would see a little bit of himself within Daniel, and that is why he's going to be approaching Daniel this way. And I think Daniel at first would be very hesitant because Johnny and them are there, but Kreese says how in life you need to fight to get where you are. Fighting is the key to surviving, and Daniel needs to strive for power, that way he can gain respect. Daniel, after hearing this, thinks about it and tells Kreese he'll see if he can come by, and Kreese believes that Daniel will definitely come by. Kreese gives the address, and after this, the timeline from here on out is going to be way different for Daniel, learning a different philosophy and a way of fighting, and also Miyagi never intervening means Miyagi-Do is just never really a threat, considering that Daniel was the only student anyway. And the reason why they know each other in the first place is because of Miyagi intervening. With me changing that entire scene for that to basically never happen, Miyagi will never basically rep up Miyagi-Do, and there's not going to be another student that's going to take Daniel's place. No, Miyagi-Do is just not really a threat. And because of this means without Daniel, he's probably just not even going to bother with the All Valley, he in reference to Mr. Miyagi, of course. So now the really only powerful dojo that's kind of relevant in the Karate Kid verse that's going to be participating in the All Valley is only Cobra Kai. Anyways, we move on to the next day, and Daniel actually comes by the dojo, which enrages Johnny initially, but Kreese stops him and says how Daniel wants to learn martial arts, and maybe when he learns enough, the two of them can actually go at it in a fair way rather than trying to jump him. He would also get Johnny's homies involved, and basically Johnny and his homies would apologize to Daniel, and at that point Kreese would say how they should respect the new student. Anyways, after this, we would have Daniel personally being taken under Kreese's wing, and Kreese would personally train Daniel just like how Miyagi did for him whenever the classes were over, and while the classes were obviously being in progress, Kreese would tell Daniel to just observe and watch. This would show Kreese Daniel's potential and what he truly could be capable of in the future, because he's just been only observing the classes and he's able to perform similar moves to some of the top tiers in the classroom. Like how I said earlier, Kreese would see some of his younger self within Daniel, and I think Kreese would personally tell Daniel that, and that's the main reason why he took him in. This would give Daniel more motivation, especially when Kreese elaborates and says how he was once weak and basically tried tried standing up for himself, but that didn't really go too well until he actually learned karate and discovered it throughout the military. Kreese would take his teachings and what he learned in the military and basically brought it to real life, trying to teach kids, how to stand up for themselves. Daniel, after hearing this, would appreciate Kreese for his honesty, and with that being said, we would have Kreese and Daniel basically training up until the All Valley would come up. Now, when the All Valley begins, I'm not going to necessarily change up the matches for the sake of having changes in the story, because I think these matches in Karate Kid 1 are actually really good and really fitting for Daniel. So he will fight Bobby, he will fight Tommy, and yes, inevitably in the finals, he and Johnny would then begin to scrap. Now, I think beforehand, we obviously do know that Daniel does get his leg injured, but in this timeline, I do not believe that would happen, as Daniel is kind of embracing the same no mercy philosophy as everyone else, and Kreese already told him to knock it off with Daniel. And so, with this, I think Bobby wouldn't try and break his leg, and even if he did, I think we could use this scene to show how far Daniel truly has come, and basically stops Bobby from doing so, and punches him in the face, knocking him down. Daniel nearly gets disqualified, but as the audience saw, Bobby was trying to come at Daniel, and all Daniel did was just strike first before he did, and struck hard and showed no mercy. So the announcer just grudgingly lets Daniel proceed on, and we would inevitably have, again, the final round between Johnny Lawrence and Daniel LaRusso. Now, I think similarly to the canonical version, it would be 2-2, but it's not going to be Johnny ratting and Daniel ratting. No, they're not going to be doing that. They're both going to be respecting each other since they are from the same dojo, and Johnny was told by Kreese to cut it out, so Johnny listened to Kreese. And these two decide that whoever wins this match, no matter what, they are going to clear their beef after this. And so the two of them being from the same dojo and respecting one another, even though they are kind of enemies slash rivals at this point, they are both going to give each other the best fight they possibly can, and this would lead into, again, the final point coming down to either Johnny or Daniel. It's 2-2, next strike wins. And so Johnny would charge in just like in canon. Daniel would then decide to move to the side and then do his own lunge attack, but Johnny would foresee this and then follow up with a spin kick that is basically coming towards Daniel's right side. Daniel manages to block with his right hand, leaving Kreese open, and we would then be revealed Daniel actually being taught the Cobra strike by Kreese, but he wanted to save it for this very moment, and at that point, he would then strike Johnny in the upper area of his body, striking him down to the ground swiftly and being declared the winner of the All Valley. Cobra Kai would now be the #1 dojo in all the Valley, and basically this means Kreese would never snap because Johnny got second place. Regardless, Kreese won. I know you guys are probably thinking Kreese would get rid of Johnny from the dojo or something like that, but I really don't see this happening. I think the main reason of Kreese snapping is the fact that Miyagi won and Johnny, basically the one who's repping Cobra Kai, lost. But since they're both repping it, he could easily take advantage, and I think this is the most Kreese way of thinking. I think he would just knock out two birds in one stone and have Daniel and Johnny, the two strongest in the Valley at this point, just be in the same dojo, and now that they cleared their beef, they can actually elevate and basically help one another and become even stronger. In Kreese's mind, the possibilities are endless. So no, I don't think he's going to kick out Johnny, and I don't think he will snap. Now, I think the next biggest step and where Kreese could move forward with is for him to call Terry and get some money to basically open up more Cobra Kai dojos in the Valley, or at least another one, and Terry himself can be a part of that. Regardless, Cobra Kai is now taking over the nation, and he wants Terry to have some of that success. And Kreese would even talk about his two remarkable students, Johnny Lawrence and Daniel LaRusso, which Terry Silver would take a little bit of interest in. Which means Terry Silver is actually going to be introduced to the series a lot earlier, a movie earlier, and Mike Barnes is basically never going to exist. Reason why is because the whole reason for Mike Barnes even bullying Daniel and that entire thing for happening is for, one, Miyagi-Do to win, two, Kreese to snap and basically be at an all-time low in his life. And with these two components not existing at all, Daniel not being a Miyagi-Do in this timeline and Kreese never failing but rather rising, this means Terry would never get Mike Barnes to specifically go after Daniel and ruin his life. And even if he were to try to, I think Mike Barnes would just get folded by Daniel and Johnny, but regardless, it just never happens in the first place, and rather Terry would probably train the two and not really do it for his own manipulative gain. I mean, he would gain the satisfaction of seeing the new generation basically embracing Terry and Kreese's ways, but not manipulating to the point to where oh, he's gonna train Daniel and basically do it all just to make him look stupid. That is not gonna happen, and basically the time between Karate Kid 2 and the end of Karate Kid 3, Daniel and Johnny would just be training with Terry Silver and Kreese and basically rising up in ranks, since those two are the top two in all of Cobra Kai. Well, at least for students, that is. Now, speaking of Johnny and Daniel, I kind of want to talk about those two for a second, because where do they go after the All Valley? Are they friends? Are they enemies? Well, I do think the first option is definitely possible, considering that they basically clarified before they fought in the All Valley, no matter what happens, after they settle their fight in the All Valley, they're just going to clear their beef. They can get along even further when considering the fact that Daniel breaks up with Ali literally right after the All Valley, or, you know, months after the All Valley. But point is, during Karate Kid 2, he would break up with her, which means now Daniel and Johnny can actually have room to actually grow as friends. Since the whole reason this started, that main factor, that being Ali, doesn't even exist for either of them anymore, or isn't really as relevant as it once was. We see in Cobra Kai Season 3 that these two basically have different perspectives, and I think after the All Valley and after everything that was making them have this beef is dismissed, they can actually realize those perspectives and realize that they were both kind of in the wrong, but at the same time they both had justifications for being in the right. Which means I think for Karate Kid 2, we can maybe have, I guess, Daniel and Johnny just growing as friends, and inevitably by the end of the film, they would both admit that, yeah, they were both right, but at the same time, they both were wrong. Also, the two of them aren't really so different from each other. No, not that guy. These guys. I think by the time they complete their training with Terry and Kreese, Daniel and Johnny are still going to be at the top of Cobra Kai in terms of power, and Kreese and Terry realizing that these guys can run their own dojos. And that's where we basically conclude Karate Kid 3 for the timeline. Also, for anyone curious about Miyagi's trip to Okinawa, the only difference is that Chozen is probably stopped by Sato or Miyagi, basically talking to him and trying to, you know, calm him down, which they might be able to reach Chozen now that Daniel isn't there to disrespect his honor. And the little girl is either going to be saved by Sato and Miyagi, or the little girl probably just dies during the storm, which is a little bit sad, but it is what it is. That's basically the main differences for the Okinawa part of the story. Now we cut to years later, and honestly things are completely distinct in comparison to its canonical version. Johnny and Daniel aren't going to go their own separate ways, but rather, since they are friends in this timeline and both repping the same dojo, Daniel and Johnny could probably run a Cobra Kai dojo themselves. These two at this point are just the next gen Terry and Kreese, you know, best buds, just, you know, teaching the next generation and trying to teach people how to defend themselves. Cobra Kai at this point is one of the only karate dojos to still run and be this successful, and most of the other karate dojos that were around in Karate Kid 1 just closed down due to Cobra Kai just overwhelming and dominating the karate dojo scene. With this happening, Daniel and Johnny are actually going to be pretty close with each other, and they're still close with Kreese and Terry Silver, and this means that Johnny has people to support and never reaches rock bottom whenever it's time for him to have a son. I don't think he would stay with his girlfriend, but rather Robbie would actually visit Johnny on the weekends, and in the weekdays he stays with his mom. But now him and Johnny actually have a good relationship with each other. And also, if you guys are wondering, for people like Miguel or Sam or really any of the drama in Cobra Kai, that's basically non-existent, since there's no rivaling dojo. There's no rival aspect at all. They're all just kind of cool with each other. So Miguel and Sam can stick together. Robbie would just be friends with both of them until Tori comes into the picture, where Tori and Robbie could maybe get together. Dimitri probably leaves Cobra Kai initially, but then comes back and decides to actually, you know, give it a chance fully. And when he meets Daniel, this is where he probably embraces Cobra Kai, because Daniel is a much more easier going teacher than someone like Johnny or Terry or Kreese. And because there's no rival aspect, there's really nothing for Kreese to try and manipulate, and everyone is basically on the same page and everyone's all cool with each other. There's no conflict whatsoever. And really, if Daniel never met Miyagi, the conflict in the main series that was established after this point, you know, Daniel meeting Miyagi, it basically never exists or never happens, which means Johnny and Daniel can actually have a chance to become friends with each other. Daniel and Johnny are actually cool with each other, and really Cobra Kai just takes over the world, essentially. You know, not in a literal way, you know, Kreese and Terry standing at the top, but in terms of karate dojos wise, Cobra Kai is definitely on top, and this is where our story essentially concludes. And this is where I'm going to be leaving the story off for right now. If you guys did enjoy, be sure to leave a thumbs up for me and subscribe if you are new to the channel, as that is greatly appreciated, along with hitting the bell icon that we are notified and updated when I upload, since YouTube tends to be wonky with that kind of stuff. If you hit the bell icon, that basically all goes away. Follow me on Twitter, that will be linked in the description. If you want more Cobra Kai what ifs or have any suggestions you want me to specifically do, as I am kind of running low on Cobra Kai ideas, well, suggest them down in the comment sections. And with that being said, I will see you all in the next one. My name is Tyler, and I'm going to catch you on the next one. Peace out, have a nice rest of the day, everybody.